This is the Seahawkers podcast, episode 488. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and I am joined by my good buddy Adam Emmert as we look ahead this week to a Seahawks matchup, Adam, that got a whole lot more interesting this week.
It did, and unexpectedly interesting, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about the Phillip Rivers signing in Indianapolis, but dadgummit, golly gee whiz, I just didn't think that we'd have to deal with him this upcoming week. But a fun story, and it does make this game a little spicier.
I got Amy Holmes in the chat joining us live out on YouTube this Wednesday night. Appreciate everybody joining us live. Go ahead and, as you're coming in, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here. We're going to be talking Seahawks football. We're going to be reacting throughout the week as well. Leading up to the game, we've got our What If preview coming up with Phil Leidick, his unique preview, looking ahead to the game against the Colts. And then, Adam, hopefully you'll be back for the postgame as we, I would expect, be talking about a win.
I would hope so. And it was something that I was a little more confident about before old Philly Rivers decided to get off the couch and, give his grandkid back to his daughter and decide that he was going to play football. But yeah, we'll get more into that Colts stuff because I know that coming off of the big victory against the Falcons, there's at least a couple things that you wanted to get to regarding that in a game that, kind of has gone to script for the Seahawks a lot this year. Defense was great, offense streaky, but at the end of the day, it turned into a blowout win.
A couple other folks join us live in chat. We've got Jay saying, let's go, and RIP Phillip Rivers. Hey, I don't want Phillip Rivers to pass away in this game. That's kind of why I hope that maybe he doesn't play. Ron Pepper joining us live. And, of course, we've got Ryan911, our live executive producer, saying 10-3. Go Hawks. We are 10-3, and it is coming off of that game against the Atlanta Falcons where they get the big second half. And I wanted to go back because taking a look at the game, trying to diagnose maybe what went wrong in the first half to where, because obviously when you blow out a team in the second half and you look back to a first half where you couldn't move the ball very well, it's like, well, why? Why couldn't you? Because obviously it was so much easier in the second half. What happened in the first half to why it was starting so slow? And there was one thing that jumped out at me that I wanted to run by you because as we went into that game against the Falcons, we talked about that how the Falcons were very susceptible to running the football up the middle, and in the first 3 quarters of the game, Adam, I went back and counted how many run plays were inside the tackles. You want to know how many I discovered?
I'm going to say you can probably count them on one hand.
You can count them on one hand.
Okay.
It was exactly 5 through the first 3 quarters. Dang. And in those 5 runs, they gained an average of 9.4 yards, 42 rushing yards, and a 5-yard penalty. It was a 2-yard run, but ended up becoming a 5-yard penalty because of an illegal hands to the face. Anyway, it's like a 3-yard difference. It doesn't matter that much. The point was between the tackle runs, they didn't do it.
Yeah, and it was frustrating all game. And we talked about the post-game show. Just kind of wish they had gotten the ball into the hands of the backs more and run it a little bit more and let Sam get a little more settled earlier in the game and try to open things up. And, one thing I hadn't focused on was, okay, what areas were they rushing to? And against a 7th ranked rushing defense last week, it was a little bit disappointing on the ground. I mean, Sharps had the big run. I'm assuming that's one of the handful that they
You
ran
had
up
the
the
Sharps run for, I think, 27, and then K9 had a run for 10 in there. And that was, of the 2, you had 2 runs that were, those were the big ones.
Yeah. And
it gets you to 37 of the, 47.
There you go. Running up the middle is more to the identity of what this team wants to be, that smash mouth. We run it no matter what. It's non-negotiable, as Abe said in the offseason. So interesting that wasn't part of the game plan for Kubiak there. But
running was part of the game plan. It was just outside the tackle runs. So
yeah,
why?
Hard telling, not knowing. Maybe he looked at Diablo up the middle and was thinking, hey, that guy is great at getting off blocks and being a good run stuffer. I don't know. It is a bit of a mystery, but at the end of the day, I think against the Colts, we'll see a little bit more of the running game. I'd like to get to 30 attempts total. I think we ended up at 27 in this last game. And again, just not quite enough. But in the second half, to me, what started to work is, if we're talking about the first half, things that didn't work, things in the second half that worked is they got a lot more into play action, getting out on the boot, clearing things up for Sam, making the reads a little more defined. And JSN was able to find a lot of space with his crossing routes over the middle. And that seemed to really kind of unlock things. And then you get Shaheed thrown in the mix and having his biggest day as a receiver. And there was things to be very excited about in the second half, especially in the passing game.
I think of the things that excite me, it's seeing Shaheed become a bigger part of that offense, because I think that's, as much as, we want to see them run the football and give it to K9 or Sharps and do those sorts of things, it really seems like it's going to be the pass setting up the run more than just dictating your terms with the run. As weird as it seems to be, have such a volume running team in terms of the percentage of your offense, because as I look at this matchup coming up against the Indianapolis Colts, I see a team, again, back-to-back weeks, we're facing teams that have probably the two best running backs in all of the league. And now it's Jonathan Taylor, and you look at their run pass splits and compare that to the Seahawks, and you go, well, why don't you use your best player more?
Yeah, it'd be confusing if I was a fan of either of those teams, no doubt about it. It's interesting because I think that the vibe of these two teams, Colts, Falcons, in terms of what they are similar. Falcons being a much lesser level of what the Colts are, but fantastic running back. I think the Colts have better weapons, even though, I guess they didn't have Drake London for the Falcons this last week, but right. Falcons were touted to have good weapons going into the season. They're both now playing geriatric quarterbacks that can't move and probably don't have the arm strength that they once did. And a defense that has become leaky. And that's really, I think, when I look at the Colts, outside of the quarterback discussion, and I can't wait to talk more about that because it is really fun.
It is fun.
But when I'm looking at this Colts team that has lost 4 out of its last 5, the thing that really stands out to me is their defense has really started to give up a lot of points per game and a lot through the air as well. And they've really regressed.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is the loss of DeForest Buckner, as he's gone to IR, and he came back to practice this week, but I don't think he's eligible to return actually until next week. So he is on his way back. Sauce Gardner is dealing with a calf injury, so he may not play. He was out this last week, so whether he didn't practice at least on Wednesday this week, and there's a question about whether or not he may play. So that defense for the Colts, you at least need that to help. Like, they've had some balance, and part of that is they've been so good on offense with Daniel Jones and the types of weapons that they have at receiver, at tight end, the complementary piece at running back. So it's that offense that I think relied at least on a defense to get some stops, and without DeForest Buckner, it seems like that's really changed a lot. And then Daniel Jones goes down. Like, it's a terrible time for the Colts, which is why we're going to get into talking a little bit about Phillip Rivers. Godzilla Hawk coming in with a $10 super chat saying 11-3. Rivers will survive if the Colts keep feeding our front with medium rare Jonathan Taylor to feast on while our backs rack up 130 plus yards combined. I doubt Rivers will be ready. Go Hawks. That's the big question for me, Adam. Can a 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, who hasn't played in the NFL for 5 years, he's been out so long that he was on the finalist list for Hall of Fame eligibility, and that list just came out recently, and now here he is signing to a practice squad, which that alone doesn't ruin his eligibility for the Hall of Fame. But being old kind of ruins his eligibility to like get ready for an NFL game.
Yeah, I guess. So if we're going to talk about Phil Rivers and whether or not we think he's going to start this week, you heard Mike in his presser say that they're preparing as if he is. And I think he would be. I don't think you go out and make this move if you're Shane Steichen thinking that you're still going to be able to roll with Riley Leonard and he's just insurance. I think you go out and you get Phillip Rivers because you've seen Riley Leonard, who I watched at Notre Dame when he was coming out, and my number one takeaway was no. Like, just
well,
no.
I don't think
he's
that
a
they
college
expected
quarterback.
him. He was the third string quarterback. Like,
Exactly.
Anthony Richardson, like he was the okay, like we can roll with Richardson, but he has an eye injury that he's still on IR for, so he's not going to be ready to be back. And yeah, so you think, man, I don't know. Sydney Hawks fan saying, everyone laughing it up about Old Man Rivers. This is a no-win situation for us. If we beat them, it's what we should do. If we lose or perform less than excellent against him, we look weak. I don't think that. I mean, it's a must-win situation for us because of where they are at their quarterback. And I have the question of, does it really matter? Because I don't know. Like, I just watched Kirk Cousins play quarterback behind the Falcons offensive line. And yeah, I would say that the Indianapolis Colts offensive line is better than the Falcons.
Agreed.
But he's also like, Kirk Cousins has been playing NFL football this year.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins is also done because he tore his Achilles. And we've seen what that does to quarterbacks and their ability to generate power in throwing the football in. It's just for a guy who was mediocre with arm strength anyways. With Phil, like, I think about this and you go, will he be ready? And I listened to his press conference and he's like, oh, it was hilarious. You know, I looked at the call sheet yesterday and it's all the same stuff with a few wrinkles, you know, here and there. He knows this offense inside and out. He's been running this offense with the high school team that he's been coaching for the last couple years here. So I think in terms of bringing in an older quarterback and being like, hey, let's throw you in right away. This isn't like Joe Flacco going to the Bengals and just having to learn the entire offense when he walks in, which he crushed, by the way, when he first got thrown in there. But Phil Rivers has complete familiarity with this system. And again, there's 14 players on this roster from when he was there in 20. So, like, he knows a lot of these guys. He's played with Jonathan Taylor, right? Like, he's played with Pittman. He's got some familiarity, Mo Alley Cox. So he knows. I think he's easily could be ready for this game. And in fact, the thing that makes this game a little extra spicy now, gives me a pause for concern, is that he's the type of guy that can eat you up over the middle. And this is going to be the freshest, best version of Phillip Rivers in this little mini comeback at the end of the year, coming off the couch. By the third week of him doing this, he's going to be banged up and it's going to be tougher for him and all that. This is probably going to be the best version of him right out the box. And he can complete passes. He's an intermediate wizard. Like, he throws those 10 to 15 yard routes just better than about anybody, or at least did back in the day. So I expect him to still be able to do that. Do I expect him to push the ball downfield a ton? Do I expect him to turtle every time Leonard Williams goes around the edge and, you know, is in his face? Yeah, I do. I think he's going to protect himself, but I think he could be very ready for this game.
We have the potential to get the best version of Phillip Rivers because this is the game he will be, if he plays, it's the game he'll be at his most healthy for the entire season. So Yokai Hawk saying, how different would our game plan really be for Leonard versus Rivers?
Oh, yeah.
And
wildly different.
Yokai Hawk saying, weak arm strength, no deep threat, loaded box, tough sledding for Taylor. And I guess that's the unknown part of it for me, is that obviously with Leonard being a rookie and a young player, like the processing speed probably not quite there because he's young. With Rivers, I know he has that ability. I just don't know like how much difference that makes for a guy who has been like out of the actual like rhythm of the NFL game and an NFL offense and how quickly that can come back to him?
I think pretty quickly for a guy who played over 15 years and was darn good when he did it. So that part I wouldn't worry about so much. But in terms of the game plan between facing Riley Leonard and Phil Rivers, I actually think that this is part of the thing that makes me a little bit nervous, is that we don't know who's going to start this game. And it makes Coach Mike have to sit and prepare for both quarterbacks in a way that you wouldn't ordinarily have to do. And they're wildly different style quarterbacks. Riley Leonard is a runner.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's his primary deal. And then he's got a pop gun arm and he's questionable with accuracy and his decision-making is poor. Philip Rivers is the exact opposite, right? He's a statue. Yeah. He's going to stand back on that one spot, but he's going to get that sidearm release going and just sling it. So those are going to be two completely different types of quarterbacks that you would game plan for. And it's kind of a bummer now that you got to do a little bit of both.
I think the similarities, though, that you would expect is that the plan really going into this game was to stop Jonathan Taylor.
Ding.
And the plan continues to be you want to stop Jonathan Taylor because that's who Philip Rivers is going to want to feed the football to.
Oh, 100%. And that's why this week is very similar, I'd say, in vibes to the week prior. Shut down that great running back, try to make an aging quarterback beat you in a defense that has been suspect for this last 4 or 5 games. You need to go out there and be able to score enough, obviously, as an offense and be efficient and run the football, which I think you're going to be able to do. And I look at this Colts team and I still see a lot of names, especially on their defense, where I'm like, this is still a good defense. Whether you're talking about Kwity Paye or Grover Stewart or Zaire Franklin, like those guys are good players. Latu's been maybe a little bit of a disappointment since he was drafted, but you should be able to beat up on these guys offensively, considering that you're obviously out Charvarius Ward. And now it sounds like you're going to be without Sauce Gardner as well.
Yeah.
I would expect them to be able to exploit them through the air a little bit, but very similar to the Atlanta game all the way around, even though it's a more talented roster.
Neo Firelight saying, I think game speed may get to Rivers a bit, specifically because the Hawks play fast. The component of this that I wonder about, and that with the whole Rivers signing that has me maybe a little bit concerned, is the emotional aspect of this. Like, I think that Philip Rivers is the type of personality, too, that's going to come in and it's going to rally up the locker room. And here they go on the road into a hostile environment. And that's the type of emotional response that you just can't quantify in a game. Like how fast are they going to come out? Like with it being scripted and wanting to get rid of the ball fast. And like, they're going to want to make that push out early. And that could be the type of thing that, maybe Coach Mike isn't quite prepared for because of you just don't have any tape on Philip Rivers unless you go back to the pandemic year.
Yeah, but again, in terms of having tape on Philip Rivers has been doing the exact same shit forever. Right. Back when they typed or chiseled out the plays on stone tablets, right? Because that's about how old he is. He's as old as we are. But when you look at it, I look at this Colts team and it's like two different Colts teams. It was the 7-2 Colts team that we saw a few weeks ago, and then this Colts team that we see now that once they lose Daniel Jones, like for good, even though he was debilitated a few weeks before that, felt like it let all the air out of this entire franchise. And then to your point, I think the part you can't prepare for as a coach is the emotional boost of somebody as charismatic and fun as Phil Rivers coming in and just being like, yeah, boys, let's go. I don't know how it's going to go, but snap me the ball, sling the rock. We'll call it a day and see how it goes. And that would be the part that gives me, when I say I've got a little concern for this, like it's gotten a little spicier than what it looked like maybe a week or two ago. I'm maybe like 7% more concerned. Like, this is still a team that you should be able to go out and beat by 10 points.
Sure. Yeah. And that has kind of played out too in watching just how the Oh, the point spread has swung because I think
Oh yeah.
before Daniel Jones got injured, it was a 3.5 point spread between the Colts and Seahawks. And then Daniel Jones goes down, and then it moved to like 13, 14. Now it's working its way back a little bit, but it's going to be an interesting week just to see how they end up preparing, because with Riley Leonard too, the other question was the news came out that he has a PCL sprain, a ligament sprain in his knee. And he was out practicing on Wednesday and he kind of looked fine. So but you know, how much of that is, oh, well, let's make it look like how many guys that we have to get prepared. It could be Riley Leonard. It could be Philip
It could be the Ripine for all we know.
It could be Brett Rippon, who's also on their practice squad. And it sounded like they were trying to get Sam Ehlinger off of the Broncos practice squad, and he said he wanted to stay in Denver.
Well, yeah, he has some sense there, I think, considering where the Broncos are going this year. And plus, how is Sam Ehlinger ever the answer to any question that ends with, what quarterback could I get to solve my problem? Like, it's never Sam Ehlinger. That's not the answer. I honestly think of all the different things that the Colts could have done this particular week or for the end of their season, this move makes the most sense by far. And it's a crazy ass move. It's crazy.
Yokai Hawk in chat saying, what are the top liabilities for a team that has had only a single week with a new quarterback? What are the top things the defense should exploit? And that's the thing that's hard to say, because when you say with a new quarterback, like, are you calling Phil Rivers a new quarterback? Because how familiar he is with this Colts offense. Like, he's more familiar with this offense than Riley Leonard is. And Riley's been there and learning the playbook for 9 months, but Phil Rivers has been he's been in this offense and then been coaching this offense. Granted, high school, but like, it doesn't change his understanding of how the offense works. So I think that when it comes down to the question, though, of what are the things that the defense should exploit, I mean, they're telling you that Jonathan Taylor is going to be a big part of this game. So you know that that's going to continue to be a focus. You also know that whether it's Riley Leonard, whether it's Phil Rivers, they're going to want to get rid of the ball quick when they do go to the passing game. So do you really need to cover? One of the things with Phil Rivers, when he got toward the end of his career, it was kind of like Drew Brees, like past 20, 25 yards down the field. It got real iffy for those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And liability for this team with this new old quarterback, that he can't move. He's never been able to move. And now he's as old as me and you. Like, and he's supposed to be able to move. Like, good luck with that. Like, I think that it's going to be difficult on him with this pass rush up front, because his front four hasn't been stopped by anybody this year. Not one team. And I don't think this is the team that's going to be able to do it. And then you're going up against the Seattle Seahawks team that I believe, I know they're number 2 in stopping running backs and all that in the stats, but they're the best team in football in terms of stopping the run, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, and you can keep Jonathan Taylor in check and have to put it on Phil Rivers coming off the couch, it's going to be a long day. And that's with saying, like, Michael Pittman's a damn good receiver. Alec Pierce, I loved him coming out of the draft. I still have a little bit of a draft crush on that guy. Uh-huh. Tyler Warren, we haven't even mentioned his name yet.
I know, draft crush too.
Yeah, Clinton's number 1 draft crush from this offseason, and a guy that is super fun, super versatile, and they do use him in some of those roles that they did at Penn State. Like, there's a lot for Phil to work with out there, and I think the toughest thing is going to be for Philip with these guys is the timing of it, because we just talked about the arm strength in that last year with the Colts not being what it had been during his heyday with the Chargers. And so if that's the case, you got to throw with more anticipation, which that's fine to a degree, because Phil's a smart guy and he's been around a long time, so he can help make up for that with his mind. But if you haven't worked with these guys a ton, and he hasn't, clearly, because he was off doing something else up until 48 hours ago.
Was not. That's the thing about this too, is that he was not even contemplating a return.
Yeah,
and I think back to the year that we brought in Marshawn, because we had all those injuries at the running back spot, and how much you saw like Marshawn having to prep. I felt like we saw videos every week of things that he had to do to get himself into game shape. Now, game shape for a running back, probably a little bit different than a quarterback, but you still have to prepare to get hit, like get yourself hit. And so I assume he's working out and like he has that ability, but daggum, to use his own words.
Yeah. I mean, golly gee, it'll be the bee's knees if he can make it through the game. It's going to be tough for him physically, like just being able to take the pounding, no doubt about it, and a tough spot to come into. But I don't think they're going to trot out Riley Leonard for this game. I really don't. I think you bring in Phil because you're like, hey, man, let's give it a whirl and see. Because honestly, still probably a better passer than Daniel Jones when it's all said and done.
Mm-hmm.
I would. That's my guess. Again, we haven't seen the dude in 5 years, so we'll find out. But last I saw of him, still a better thrower of the football than Danny Dimes. And, one of the things that we won't have to worry about, since it is not Daniel Jones and it likely won't be Riley Leonard, is all the read option stuff that the Colts had done a lot with throughout this season. That's all out the playbook. We're not doing that with Phil. No. That's a whole section. He doesn't have to learn that. He just rips that out of playbook, throws it aside, and calls it a day. So.
Michael Knight in chat saying, I fear for my fellow Wolfpack grad, Philip. I fear for his safety. That's a wild thing, too. And almost the reason why I would say, man, like, I know that part of this move to bring in Phil Rivers is because you are in playoff position. This Colts football team, like, Riley Leonard is not going to lead you to a playoff win. And that's what you're making the argument for is, this is the reason why you bring in Phil, because you're looking at someone who can take you into the playoffs and win a playoff game or two, and hopefully more if you're a Colts fan. And why would you do this then on the road against the Seahawks? Like maybe if Riley Leonard can go one more week, you give Phil just like that one more week to prepare.
I think the thing is though, at 8-5, is that where they're at right now? Right? Yeah, 8-5. You don't have the luxury to be like, well, maybe we'll just give up one more here with Leonard out there. Like, you got to go out and try to win. And that's why I do believe that it's going to be Rivers out there. And it's going to be entertaining because Philip Rivers, I've always been entertained by the guy. I've always found him to be a likable dude in all of that. But I do think the defense should be able to stymie this Rivers-led offense for the majority of the game. I think it's going to be tough sledding because of how good they are stopping the run. But also, I think the offense should be able to have a day against a defense that's really been on the struggle bus for about 5 weeks. And so I kind of want to address a little back and forth here that's been going on in the comments. So 91 of you lovely 12s out here with us here live. 2 of them, Sovereign and Alana, going back and forth. Elena going back and forth in the comments. Here's the thing. Both of you play nice, number one. And then number 2, you're both right. Like, the offense has been excellent at times. Like, we're the second scoring offense in the league, and there's a lot to be excited about with that. Also, too, the offense has had moments of real struggles, and the quarterback has had some play that makes it go, a little bit now and then. So I think you're both kind of you're both right at the same time. 2 things can be true at the same time. So and it doesn't mean that you're like a terrible pessimist for looking at the stuff that hasn't gone well and being honest about that. And it doesn't mean you're a crazy homer for looking at the stuff that went well and saying that that's been good, and being honest about that. So that's all I'm saying.
Well, and I think too that part of the conversation is that, hey, things have gone really well. There's been moments where it's been tough, but it's really easy to look at what's going on inside the NFC West and have concerns because at least 2 of the NFC's best teams are right here in the West, and with one being the Rams and it being a team that, you're going to have to, like, the Seahawks are going to have to beat the Rams if we want to go to where, as fans, we want our team to go. Like, they're going to have to get through the Rams to go to the Super Bowl.
1,000%, yes.
I mean, maybe we could just hope and pray that they get beat by the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs and that we don't have to face them. But,
I mean, it's possible. It's possible they lose to the Lions this week and we beat the Colts, and now we've got a pretty clear path to a number 1 seed, which would be interesting. And I think that would be huge for this game because for this team, because it takes one big game off of the plate of Sam Darnold to have to go out and win to get to a Super Bowl. And that I'm excited about this week. That's why this is kind of a must-win game for this team before you go and face the Rams, because that truly will be the must-win game, as you put here, Brandon. If you're gonna win the West, you got to beat the former champions of the West, and they're gonna be on your plate here next Thursday. But before then, we got JSN coming out here at home against a depleted secondary. Which one of these corners do you think is going to have a great day against JSN? Is it going to be Mekhi Blackman? Is it going to be Jonathan Edwards? Is it going to be Kenny Moore? Have you even heard of any of these people?
Yeah, Jalen Jones, another name that they have at corner that we haven't heard of. But yeah, man, I think that this week provides Sam a really good opportunity to, whether or not it's going up against the corners, going over the middle, like Zaire Franklin, he's having a rough year too, who has been kind of okay at linebacker, but and then you got Jermaine Pratt at linebacker. Like, their defense is, man, I can see this is the reason why they've struggled these past few weeks.
1,000%. And you get that many injuries, especially in the secondary. It's no wonder that the guys that you have faced for the last 4 weeks have all passed for nearly 250 yards or more. Shoot, Mahomes put up 350 yards on them a couple of weeks ago when they played, and Mahomes has been on the struggle bus a bit this year. And look, to the previous comment, like, yeah, I get after Sam on his mistakes, but I mean, he's probably been better than Mahomes as a whole this year. Like,
probably,
which feels weird to say, but like, facts are facts.
Yeah, well, I'm not consistently watching every snap by Mahomes either, but Michael Knight in chat saying, I want to go through the Rams, not hope and pray not to. That would feel a little empty to me too, that if we did go into the playoffs and Green Bay took them out, and like, Green Bay's still a very good team. Mm-hmm. They would be probably my third team in the NFC as we're looking at the top three teams. Eagles after this week, I have my they have consistently put questions forth of whether or not they're going to be a viable playoff team at this point, but yeah, we've got
I don't think they're going to be, because they can't run the ball this year,
right?
And so when that happens and Jalen Hurts has to be the guy that stirs the entire drink on offense, he can't do it. And we saw it last week. And it's a little like what we talk about with Sam, right? I don't believe Sam Darnold is a guy that you can just throw the entire offense on and say, lead us home. Like, you've got to be able to support him in all the other ways. And look, that's not a knock on Sam. I mean, Jalen Hurts won a freaking Super Bowl. So, like, you could be a B-plus quarterback and still win chips. Like, it's possible. But you do have to have that support around you. So I don't worry about the Eagles. I agree with you about the Packers. The Lions are sneaky scary. If they get in, the Cowboys would be a little sneaky scary if they got in. I don't know that that's going to happen.
It's going to be tough for them.
I don't worry about the Panthers. I don't worry about the Bears. I'm not even that worried about Niners. Yeah. So, yeah, it's really kind of Rams and Packers. And honestly, if the Packers beat the Rams and we still, manage to beat the Packers and then move on in the playoffs and all that, would it feel hollow to me? Hell no. All those dudes from LA can go back home and, sit and deal with Sean McVay and, all of his hair products. So I don't, that wouldn't hurt my feelings at all if they got ousted before we saw them.
Hey, some congratulations due to Gambling Goat, one of our YouTube members here in chat, saying my first kid is due to be born on the 18th.
Hell yeah.
So that game against the Rams, when we play, in Adam's voice, LA, as if I needed to stress more. Hey, there's no stress here, Gambling Goat. You make sure that you have a Seahawks jersey ready to go for when the little one pops out. You immediately put them in it, and then you have a new Hawks fan, and then you have good Hawkra. And we beat the Dirty Rams on their very first birthday.
Look, here's the thing. I thought that this Thursday game with the Rams might be one of the hardest games of the year because short weeks and coming off a Colts game, which looked a lot more difficult back when we were talking about it. But you know what I have zero concern about now? That Thursday night Rams game. It's a lock. We're winning that game. I mean, if gambling's having kid number 1, we got a new 12 coming into the world, same day that we're playing the Rams and we need that game, that's the ultimate hawker. Like, that's the biggest boost you could possibly get to that. We're winning that game. It's a lock. Thank you.
I don't know if you have
You better
to,
induce if it's not happening on that day, by the way.
Well, I was going to say, too, like, do you have to, like, bribe to go ahead and, like, get things started so that way, like, the birth happens before kickoff? Like, you know, we can't be cutting this thing
Just
close.
has to be same day. Just has to be same day.
All right. Jason, if you lose, you have to put him up for adoption? No! Come on, Jay.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it might be like, man, this kid came into my life. We still lost the Rams. What good is it? Maybe we do.
All right. Well.
Yes. All right. This is a certainty. All right. Well, also, maybe no, because C-section sound like the hurt. Although childbirth as a whole sounds like it hurts. Good luck to the missus, man.
Glad we don't have to worry about that. So,
yeah.
I am sovereign. I just watched the Eagles choke. So really, but yeah, that was a fun game to watch there in overtime. I might talk about that a little bit later. So, but we got this game coming up against the Colts, and yeah, you talked about all the weapons that they have on offense, some of the questions on defense. Looking at some of the matchup points within this game, points per game, the Colts still top 5 in the league in terms of points per game, but that is going to be heavily impacted if they go with Riley Leonard. Phillip Rivers, obviously, I do think that gives them a better chance. Like, if you think about it, too, as a fan, like, who would you rather see? Yeah, I'd rather see Riley Leonard out there. So they're most likely going to go with the guy that we'd prefer not be out there. Point differential, Seahawks. Look at this. First in the league at plus 161. The Colts, no slouch, at plus 91. No. Fourth in the league, but we're 70 points ahead of the fourth place team in point differential.
Yeah, it's outrageous. And that speaks to how amazing the defense has been and how explosive the offense has been at times. Being first in point differential, like, that's a number that I look at a lot when I'm looking at teams, because I really do think it tells the story of how dominant teams can be. Now, with that said, I look at all the Colts stats here on the screen, Brandon, and I go, I don't know what those mean. Because it's almost like, the first 9-10 games of their season don't even matter. They're different teams now.
Yeah, it makes it difficult to look at these and compare them and wonder exactly what type of team that you're going to see. The one that I would look at, though, that I think would I think still be relatively viable might be that record in close games. And we've got Michael Knight coming in with a $5 super chat. Appreciate Michael joining us live. And the Seahawks 4-3 record in close games. The Colts 3-4. So both these teams have been in the same number of close games. The Colts, right? I guess
Colts are a losing record. We have a winning record. We're way better in those games.
But doesn't that make you like, if this were to be a close game? And hey, if Jonathan Taylor gets going, if this defense, I know that we have stopped top runners in the past, but if they're able to run the ball with consistency, that's what keeps this game close. It's what limits the number of possessions that each team's going to have. And as we're going to look at, red zone scoring, like, that's going to be pretty close. If this is a close game, then that's where I would have some of that concern. And turnover differential, that's one area where the Colts have been pretty good. Now, defensively, we talked about their issues. Are they still going to maintain that? But they're 9th in the league in turnover differential. We're 20th.
Yeah, and part of turnover differential is how many turnovers your defense comes up with, and that's such a volatile number. But what I do think is reflected in there is Danny Dimes was doing a better job of protecting the football as a whole this year than Sam Darnold has as a whole. And it's just part of how Sam plays. And it's the one thing. It's honestly the one thing when we look at this team. And this is probably why, like, after the Falcons game, both of us came on here and we were kind of more focused on the first half offensively than maybe the second half.
Yeah.
Maybe it was closer to 50-50, but I think we both focused on that because it's just like, dang, this is the one thing that can hold us back from making some huge hay in the playoffs. It also could be the thing that Sam solves going forward and gets us over the top. It's the biggest variant of the whole thing. So I think you're right. Turnover differential probably is the one stat in here that makes me wonder.
Michael Knight in chat saying, Adam, can Sam Darnold win the Super Bowl in 2025? If you think he can't, why not? I'm going to answer this first because I think, gosh, when you look back at some of the quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls, and I think of a guy like Trent Dilfer, where you look at a team like the Ravens that had that dominant defense. And you had Trent Dilfer on the other side of the ball, not like a dominant quarterback. Like Sam Darnold, far better quarterback than Trent Dilfer. Like he has that ability. And but Trent, like when he got into those moments, like they had. I guess it was he had moments where he turned over the football, but they had the type of team that could overcome it. So it's do you have the team that can overcome that? And a quarterback who can limit it enough to get you through the playoffs. And so when I think of the type of quarterback that Sam can be and compare him in that regard, like he can absolutely win a Super Bowl. It's just he has to avoid melting down.
Yeah. Can he win the Super Bowl in 2025? In fact, I think of all the years in which it could be possible, this is a huge opportunity for him. Look at the AFC in who you would possibly be going up against. The only super duper star that if the playoffs started today, like bona fide guy who's been there, done that, and has been around the block is Josh Allen. Like it's a bunch of other quarterbacks that you have massive questions about and same sort of questions that you do about Sam in terms of big games and all of that. And then you look at the NFC outside of the Rams. Do I know that Jordan Love is going to get it done in crunch time? No. Do I know that Jalen Hurts is this year Jalen Hurts is going to get it done in crunch time? No, but I would be more, I guess this kind of sums up my whole thing right here is this point. I would be more bullish on Jalen Hurts figuring it out in the playoffs because I've seen him do it when he takes his game to another level when the moments are the biggest. Mm-hmm. He does that consistently. And with Sam, what we've seen to this point, and that's not saying that that's the only thing that's going to happen going down the stretch, but all the evidence points that it goes the other way for him. So I'd have more confidence there, if that makes sense. But that doesn't mean it's a 0% chance that he could win the Super Bowl this year.
No, I think it's the same argument that we've had going back for the past 4 years, like with Geno. Like, we hadn't seen it. So until we saw it, could we believe that it could happen? And I think that there's always going to be that until you see it, like you're just not going there. There's some quarterbacks that you're going to have that question about until you actually see it.
Geno has a lot more clutchy than Sam. We saw so many fourth quarter comebacks with Geno, and it's just not a thing that happens for Sam on the regular.
We've seen fourth quarter comebacks, but they've both again when it's crunch time in the playoffs against top tier opponents, neither of them have that. So until we see it,
so the one time that Geno got to the playoffs with the Seahawks and a completely overmatched
we're not
team,
having the Geno Smith argument right now.
You keep going back to this that those two guys are equal in those sort of moments, and you're just dead wrong. And like it annoys the crap out of me because it really does, because you completely take out of the context of what Geno was working with when he was there compared to what Sam has worked with the last 2 years. It's completely different. But anyways, we can move on to Reek.
Sean Edwards saying, how concerned are you guys about Reek Woolen's lack of professional self-control to avoid unsportsmanlike conduct penalties? Hey, as long as Reek Woolen continues to play physical football, like I will take physical tackling and physical football from Reek Woolen, and where he's defending well against the top opposing receivers, And it's similar to DK Metcalf with me. Like we have the one weird DK Metcalf penalty every 2 or 3 weeks. But you had that physical nature to him too. Like if Reek needs to channel his inner DK Metcalf to get that, I'll take a 15-yard penalty here and there.
I think Mike puts it in the category of the cost of doing business. And yeah, I'd say I'm at about a 4 on it because they don't seem to come in key moments either.
Yeah.
And he doesn't play with the thing is he always gets it after a physical play, like the one he's made in the last 4 weeks. Like and he gets a little hyped up. So it doesn't happen very often either. So yes, it could bite us. Yes, I'm like, dude, can you just take that out of your game? It shouldn't be hard.
That's why another reason why I equate it to DK. It's like you could not do that and it would be okay.
Oh, say that again. I'm sorry. I got lost on a comment there while you were saying that.
Yeah, just that they're very similar penalties to DK. Like there's no reason to do them, but every week it seems to happen.
Yeah.
All right, we got Sydney Hawks fan coming in. I'm liking the questions that we're getting from being out here
These
live
are
today.
Great. You guys are amazing.
Sydney Hawks fan. So curious how Woolen and Walker do in their last 4 games. Do we sign them both to big deals? Big deals? That's a big question. I wonder.
Both those guys will get paid by another. If they hit the free agent market, and we don't pay. Both those guys are going to get pretty good sized deals somewhere else in the league. They are,
and that could be a reason too why we're starting to see the requel and that we are going down the stretch because he's recognizing that going down this stretch with more eyes being on the Seahawks, with him having the body of work that he really does, he's playing for a big paycheck. And with Walker, I think that the way that they're splitting up the load, like I think people still recognize the talent, but I wonder how many teams would be willing to shell out the money at the running back spot for if they see this as the way that you have to manage that type of workload to get the most out of Ken Walker. I don't know.
I mean, I guess it's a fair case to make about Ken because the injuries throughout the years. This year's been healthier, knocking on the wood. The split carry seems to have helped with that. But the talent is there. I do believe there's going to be a team that says, I'm not going to give you like Saquon money or something like that. But they're going to give you maybe not even like a James Cook level contract, but something a little under that. Still a pretty hefty deal for a running back. Whereas with Reek, when he hits free agency, he'll get about as top dollar as you can get for a corner. Yeah. Like good lockdown corners are difficult to come by. And I just think that the bidding war is going to be high if they don't lock him up early. Now, are they even interested in doing it? I'm not sure. I heard Hawk Blogger saying that he believes that the way that Mike's talked about Reek in the last few weeks is different than before, and that he's really winning him over and rah, 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 and all that stuff. Okay. I mean, maybe. I still think the mental lapses and the lack of physicality isn't necessarily a Mike McDonald player. And I don't see him spending top dollar on a guy that has deficiencies that I just don't think he likes to tolerate.
Yeah. What would you give the likelihood of, if we're talking about re-signing players in this offseason, Kobe Bryant, one of those guys who's been a consistent starter. I don't think he would be top dollar safety necessarily, but a guy we've seen guys be in this system and then go on to get paid. And is that a guy that maybe you reward for being a big part of this defense? So what would you put the likelihood of which one ends up with the Seahawks next year?
Well, since Kobe Bryant doesn't play guard like his namesake, he has a pretty good chance of getting re-signed. Because obviously, if he played guard, like we're not going to pay him, we'd let him walk for sure. I actually think because of Kobe's play, his leadership, he doesn't make waves. He's consistent. He doesn't get hurt. I think that's a guy that they would like to pay. I do think that they'll pay Cross big money, and you'd be stupid not to. He's a heck of a left tackle. They don't grow on trees. I I think it's like a 15% chance that they sign Reek to the type of deal that he's going to be looking for, especially with the other offers that are out there.
Yeah. Yokai Hawk saying Kobe makes a lot of tackles, but
He
we've
does.
also seen a lot of safeties come in with the Mike McDonald system and not have success other places too. So it's one of those positions where I think you can find a guy. I think with Reek, if it's coming down, like, can you pay Reek and Cross in the offseason? I would rather spend the money on the offensive line.
Yes.
Even though, like, Cross hasn't been, like, top 10 tackle this year, but...
Are we sure?
I
think he's been a top 10 tackle this year.
Yeah, it's real close.
How often do you look at the offensive line and go, Charles Cross was the problem today?
Well, the whole offensive line this year has done relatively well, so you can't really point at anybody other than Bradford to where you go, there's a problem. But it's going to be a fun thing to talk about in the offseason. But we still got games to play here coming up this season, and gosh, what are we at? 4 weeks left.
And to your point, Brandon, all these contracts for re-signing all these guys coming up on their rookie deals are going to be probably a little more expensive when they all have Super Bowl champion after their name. Like that's
right.
That's going to increase the price tag.
All right. Well, on that note, what do you say we get to the second half of the show?
Let's go.
Looking at some news as we get into the second half of the show, Adam, Seahawks center Jalen Sundell coming back this week, returning to practice on Wednesday, along with tight end Eric Saubert, both of them designated for return. We heard that Elijah Arroyo may be dealing with a knee injury too, so Saubert coming back, that could be at a very nice time. We haven't talked much about Sundell and Olu and what it could mean for the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any predictions as to what we could see coming up this weekend? Are they going to mix things up? Are they going to slow roll Sundell from coming back? Are we going to see a big shakeup where Sundell takes over at right guard for Anthony Bradford, despite Bradford kind of surging these past couple of weeks?
Is Sundell listed as being a full participant in practice so far, or is he limited?
I think I don't know. I have not looked closely at the
if he's a full participant, my money would be on him coming back and playing center.
Yeah.
If he's a limited participant, all right, guys, full participant again, then the second thing would be him replacing Bradford. But I think, if he's a limited participant, I think it's going to be...
He was limited on Wednesday, but it's his first day back. Like, this could be one of those things where limited on Wednesday, you see full on Thursday. Like, you could see that progression then Thursday and Friday. So that could help us decide of what we might see. But as of right now, you only have that little bit of information.
With that little bit of information, my bet would be on Olu Bradford starting, like both those guys.
I think the most likely, I'll say that if we do see full participation in practice from Sundell the next two games, or the next two practices, that I think that he'll take over for Olu, and that we'll just...
No, you can't do that. You have to do it on the limited information we have today. Yeah. That's what you made me do.
I'm doing that too. I'm saying that I think that if he's healthy enough to be at practice and even be limited, I think we'll see him take over for Olu. And
really? Okay. Because I think Olu's acquitted himself very well.
Oh, yeah, it's been fine.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's also done enough to where you go, oh, you lost your job because Olu's played so well. I don't think we're at that point.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Yeah, I don't think he's gotten Wally pipped.
Yeah. I didn't want to throw out that name because that's like an old-timey name from the 30s.
For sure.
Michael Knight.
It's in honor of Phillip Rivers.
That's true. He probably was good friends with Wally Pipp.
Absolutely.
Michael Knight saying, I'd put Sundell in for Bradford if he's healthy in about 5 seconds. I know we've gotten to that point with some of the things that we've seen from Bradford. I think that they'll want to maybe reward Bradford for some of his play these last couple of weeks just because he has... I do wonder, though, if a lot of Bradford's motivation, like we start to see him be more motivated because now Sundell's like coming back and healthy. And there's been that, we had that talk in the offseason that if there were injuries, that the most likely offensive line scenario would be that Sundell would be the next guard to come in if there were to be an injury and Olu would play center. And so it makes a lot of sense that if you're going to push Bradford, it's going to be with that return of Sundell, and with him maybe seeing the return on the horizon. Like, is that why we've gotten like okay Bradford the last couple of weeks?
I don't know. I don't think Bradford is a concentration issue. I don't think it's the mentals that's killing him out there. I think it's foot speed and being such a tall guy. I think his
leverage,
low man wins as a offensive lineman,
and a lot of times that you see him going low to lunge.
There you go.
Is why he's trying to compensate for that.
100%. Yeah, exactly. You went exactly where I wanted to go with that. I see the truth here in the comments saying Sundell isn't an upgrade over Bradford, and I mean I don't know. That's the thing. I could agree with that. I could also agree with he might be. But with that said, at this point in the season, if we're like week 6, I could see the switch happening more readily. But going down the stretch as you're trying to finish out a season and make that playoff push and keep the chemistry going with the offensive linemen, I'm not sure you want to tinker with that too much.
And with the Lambs game on the horizon, that's the other part of this too, is do you interrupt some of that continuity? Is some of the... I feel like maybe we've seen more protection issues over the past few weeks, and is that something that we're not going to know watching as fans, whether or not that's an Olu strength versus, does Sundell, like, is he
scheme thing?
Is he so much better at setting protections than Olu? Like, that's not something we're going to know. But if we do see Sundell out there over Olu, I think that might lean toward the reasoning why is that he's just better at setting protections for the O-line.
That could very well be true. The one concern I'd have about Sundell being moved over to guard is just size.
Yeah.
He's just barely 300 pounds he's more of a speed guy. It gives me pause.
Well, we'll see how it goes going forward. And then who are we going to complain about if Bradford's not out there? We got to have a guy.
Well, if things are going well, I'd prefer to not complain about guys. I'd love it to be 2013 and just be like, I don't know, man, these guys are awesome and we're winning the Super Bowl. Like that'd be great.
And this is the view of a lot of Seahawks fans too, Marlon, saying the question of which is better, dumpster fire or unknown. That's why you get so many
mystery
of these.
Box.
Yeah. The mystery box could be anything. It could even be a dumpster fire.
It sure could. It could be a grease dumpster fire. You don't know.
Yeah. We'll have to see going forward, but nice to see Sundell back and getting healthy. Like having more O-line depth, like I would much rather see that than having less O-line depth. And so having some of that coming back, that's definitely a good thing for our Seahawks.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I agree with you. More depth better than less depth. That's why I was so mad this offseason about not bringing in one more guard.
It's like winning is better than losing. I'm full of these Brandonisms, if you want to.
Here's the thing, though. You're not wrong. So don't hang your head about it. Yeah.
All right. Well, some folks who recognize just how right I am so many times. It's our executive producers, DCH, Ryan Peterson, who's joining us in chat, our live YouTube executive producer, and, of course, Brian Shaw. And I saw Jay Owens in chat earlier, too. Jay is coming in. He gave us not a raise, but he gave us the whole year right up front, going from the $12 a month to the whole $145.44 for the year.
Dang.
And man, oh man, around Christmas time, if you want to help fill our cup by going from the monthly to the annual, that's this holiday season is a great time to do it.
Absolutely. The spirit of giving is strong with the little flockers. You guys are awesome. Thank you a ton for all that, man.
We've got Verstelmeister, who is in at $60 for the year. So welcome to the flock. Nice. To Verstelmeister, coming in from Deutschland, it sounds like.
Heck yeah, man. Welcome to the Meister. I like any word that ends in Meister. Like that tickles my brain the right way.
It reminds you of the old Rob Schneider SNL skit, maybe.
That must be what it is. Yeah, that probably is what it is. Oh, boy, I didn't realize that was so deep in the brainstem for me. But, yeah, there it is.
We got John Davison, the Bard, coming in, editing his membership from $6 a month to £60 for the year. So a big thanks to John for doing that.
Dude, that's super cool, man. And, yeah, we love the pounds as much as dollars, no doubt.
Heck yeah. And Marvin Little Deer, a new member out on YouTube. I recognize that name from Marvin. So
Absolutely.
Big thanks to Marvin coming in and supporting us out on YouTube.
Yeah, big thanks, Marvin. I've been seeing you all year in the chat, and you're super positive and supportive. We appreciate you, man.
Truth as I know it, always joining us here in chat too, and asking the question, Adam, is this our Seattle Seahawks, this 2025 version of the defense, is it an all-time great defense?
Well, it's too early to tell. But if they go on a run this playoff and just shut everybody down, offense doesn't have to do much. We're easily able to survive the one Sam mistake a game, and they go out and win a chip. I mean, I think that starts to put it in the conversation of, because you mentioned like Trent Dilfer and the Ravens, right? Like he kind of rode that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people now that do the revisionist history thing now that Russ has fallen off and isn't all that good, being like, oh, it was just all the LOB and all of that, which is decidedly untrue, but okay. Not that the LOB wasn't the number one thing that propelled that team, but
it was,
so
I mean,
they're
it
in
was
the
the
conversation,
defense,
but
it was
like
the run game, but also Russ was super clutchy in those
super clutch
those 3 years.
Yeah, in many years, but then you think about
it was even years beyond that, because after the LOB had gone away, like everybody either retired or went there to different teams. Looking at Richard Sherman going to the Niners, not that it was his choice necessarily, but we started to see guys move on, and we still had that. We still saw those games where Russ was able to come through in the clutch.
Then I think about like that Eagles defense that got Nick Foles a chip, but they're not considered an all-time great defense, but kind of carried a team. So I don't know. I don't think nationally it's going to be considered that way, even if they do win a championship. I'll put it to you like that, because the biggest star on this team is Leonard Williams. He's the best player on this defense, and he's amazing. He's all world, and he's just destroying people. And I bet you, if you were to poll 60% of NFL fans, like, they wouldn't know who he is.
Yeah, I think that to that point, though, it does have the ability to be an all-timey great defense, and in a different way that I think the LOB was, because a lot of that was because of the personnel. And now we have, with head coach Mike Macdonald and the scheme along with the players, I think that that's what has it, the ability to put it up there, but be a little bit different than that LOB era defense.
That's a great point. I hadn't thought about that, because Pete did kind of just say, "Hey, look, we're playing cover 3 and try to beat us.
You can't.
Good luck." And Mike has definitely taken that to a different level with his scheme.
Michael Knight came in earlier too with another $2 super chat, so big thanks to Michael. I'll ask again, next Thursday night in Lumen Field, is this the largest game in a decade or more for our Seahawks? Man, oh man, if we as fans are already looking ahead, it does have me a little bit concerned that we might overlook this Colts team too. But Michael, absolutely. The way that this season has gone, especially if you get a win this week, you have to beat the Rams, be able to win this division. It could be the biggest game, in a decade, sure.
Yeah, I think that tracks. We haven't been at this point in the season and had this good of a record. Oh, I guess that's maybe not true since 2015. I'd have to go back and look, because there was a couple years where at this point in the season maybe had this good of a record. Gosh, I just can't remember off the top of my head. I'm not good at that. That's not my forte. But it does feel like it could be the biggest game in about a decade. But the funny thing is coming into this pod, I wasn't thinking about the Rams at all. I was thinking about Falcons. I was thinking about Colts.
Right.
It's interesting how much, as a fan base, us 12s as a whole, we want to beat those guys, man. And that's why people are looking ahead, and I get it.
Elena coming in saying Texans defense now is scary. You use the word now, Elena. The Texans defense has been scary all year long. Yes. And it really does. As we look back on that win over the Texans, at the time, I think we talked about just how difficult it was going to be going up against that Texans defense. And you look back on the score and how much we did end up dominating that game. It does seem more impressive now that they've kind of gone on this little bit of a run that they have these last few weeks.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Texans being the number one defense in the league amongst the national coverage. And first off, wrong. Just wrong. The best defense in the league plays in the Pacific Northwest. It does. And it can't be argued. You look at the way the Texans schedule goes. I mean, just being in the AFC South itself makes it a lot easier to be a great defense. And then I think the thing that takes it off the table for me, Brandon, is I watched Danielle Hunter go up against an undrafted free agent making his first start ever after coming into the game thinking he was the backup, and the starting left tackle for the Chiefs goes down, and he's forced in there. And Danielle Hunter did bupkis, and he's supposed to be super scary and, double-digit sacks and all that. Right there, that's disqualifying to me.
I am Sovereign saying they're still the number one defense. How are we quantifying number one defense for one? Because if it's
stats or eye test,
well,
truth.
And I think they're the number one in points allowed. And so I got a question: if we're using this points allowed stat, the division that they're coming from.
Yes, 1,000% yes.
I think the Seahawks defense has got to be number one in terms of DVOA. So. If we're going to cherry pick which stat we're going to use, and whether it's eye test
another one of the
DVOA,
magic stats, yeah.
All right, what do you say we get on to some do better and better at life?
All right, my do better this week is for Brian Cox, the defensive line coach formerly for the New York Football Giants. I don't know if you saw this, and I think it's the same Brian Cox that played linebacker back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember him with the big neck roll?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's the same dude. I'm pretty sure. But either way, Brian Cox, defensive line coach of the former defensive line coach of the New York Football Giants, he got fired yesterday because apparently he threw some sort of hissy fit over the seating arrangement on the flight home after the last game. And that was the final straw. They moved the assistant coaches to the back of the plane. I don't know exactly what happens. Nobody does it according to SI here. But whatever it was, the blow up, the hissy fit, whatever happened, it was enough for Mike Kafka to be like, yeah, I've had enough of this crap. See you later, Brian, and made him pack his bags. So for Brian Cox getting upset about seating charts, do better. You find other things, man. There's things in this world to get upset about, things to not to. That falls under to not to.
Yeah, that is NFLer Brian Cox. So you're thinking of the same guy. You mentioned a coach getting fired. The Seahawks also have a coach who took a leave of absence here. Yeah. That news being announced today that Kennedy Polamalu, and who is the running backs coach for our Seattle Seahawks. And the way that Coach McDonald handled it in the presser, it made me feel that it maybe wasn't necessarily Polamalu's choice that he was taking a leave of absence.
Oh.
Well, he said he wasn't going to comment on it. And then one of the reporters asked, is there a chance that he's going to be back at some point? Is this a leave of absence that's temporary? And he said, no, it'll be for the season. And so for him to answer it that way, I don't know. It seemed very strange that if it wasn't of his own, now maybe it's a family issue, that it's going to be a long-term thing, and hopefully all the best if it's a family issue that Coach Polamalu is dealing with. But yeah, the way that Coach also then I don't think Coach Mike would say, well, I'm not going to comment about it.
Yeah, Mike was being a little cagey about a few answers in that presser, but that was interesting that he kind of went that route. I mean, hopefully it's not family or health or something.
Yeah, hopefully he was just complaining about the seating arrangements on the flight home from Atlanta.
Exactly. I'd rather him have those problems than other ones if that is the case. But he was cagey about that answer, and then the Arroyo near injury. Is IR in consideration? He's just hurt right now. Like I think Mike's plumb tired of answering injury questions. I think he's over it. I think he's starting to go full Belichick on that.
I legit think that he just doesn't. He probably didn't think to ask, and so he wasn't going to answer any other way other than he has a knee issue. Like that's literally all he knows.
Yeah. I wanted to address this real quick. Analysts call the Texans the best defense. I mean, I'm an analyst and I don't no. I mean, I've watched that team up close and personal.
Yeah.
And I've watched this Seahawks team week in, week out. And every day, twice on Sunday, I take the Seahawks defense. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and we watched the Seahawks offense take apart that defense.
Yeah.
For 30-plus points.
Yeah. They could be number 2. They're real good. I'm just saying that we're better. That's all.
All right, my do better this week, Adam, is for the officials in the Baltimore game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, reminding us that we still don't know for sure what is and isn't a catch in the NFL. Because, Adam, the explanation afterward, it didn't help. Because,
it sucked. Yeah.
I initially watched it, and because he catches the ball, he gets 2 feet down in the end zone, and the defender, this is for folks that may not have seen it, the defender comes in and swats it out of his hands after he's taken his 2 steps. And you're thinking, I feel like we've been so conditioned to look for that third step, especially when they're in the middle of the field. You don't necessarily need the third step if you're getting your feet down in bound, or toward the sideline. But
and the end zone's different than in the field of play too.
Right. It's a little bit different, but also there's the actual rules to go by. And this was the explanation afterward from NFL Vice President of Instant Replay, Mark Butterworth. He said that
he's not a real person. I don't believe it.
That's an AI name.
No, he is not. He's not married to that syrup bottle. There's no way.
And Mark said that the third step is, quote, an act common to the game and needed to be completed in order for it to be ruled a touchdown. But the actual rule says it has to be an act common to the game. And there are examples. Taking a third step is one of those examples. Extending the ball forward with your arms is also an example. Tucking the ball away and turning upfield is an example. Or just maintaining control for long enough to do any of those things. And so for the officials who actually saw the play happen live, they determined that it looked like a touchdown. And then it wasn't until they go back and they start really slowing it down and to the point to where they decided to overturn it. But also one of these rules is that unless it's clear and obvious through the visual evidence, that you stick with the call on the field. And you can see that as he catches the ball, he moves his arms outward, extending his arms. So that's a play common to the game. You would think it would be a catch. And if there was any question about it, you go with the call on the field. So for the call on the field was a touchdown. Read your own rules about what a catch is, actually follow them, and do better.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. So I looked at that, and the reason I brought up it's different in the end zone than anywhere else is that how many times have we seen throughout the years that a guy gets possession relatively briefly, but gets 2 feet down? That's a touchdown. That's it. And if you're going to the ground, now you have to control it going all the way through the ground. That's one of the weird things. But the second the ball breaks that plane and you have possession, that's a touchdown. How in the world is that not a touchdown? Catch, 2 feet, touchdown. That's instantly a touchdown. Let alone, you're right. On the field, they were like, yep. And then they overrule it by saying it wasn't a common motion or whatever. And just as you said, one of the examples is exactly what Likely did. He just put his arms out. What are we talking about? That was a touchdown.
So, yeah, very annoying that now we have to question it based on how they decided to overturn that. But
yeah,
hopefully, hopefully we'll get it worked out. We won't have any more of those examples. On to Better at Life.
Yeah. My Better at Life than Skip Bayless this week is for Indianapolis Colts GM Chris Ballard. I just want to say thank you, buddy. You're an amazing human. You did something for this team. You allowed us to go out and get a cornerstone of this potentially legendary generational defense in the MOB here by going out in the 2023 draft and drafting Anthony Richardson instead of Devin Witherspoon. By taking Anthony Richardson at 4, left Spoon there for us at 5, we get to have a generational type corner on our team. While they picked a dude, if he had just called me, I could have told him, because I said at the time, I to anybody who would listen, never Anthony Richardson, never. Like, much like Riley Leonard, no. Like, for all the reasons that we now know. Dude even gets injured just hanging out on the sidelines, like gets his eye poked out or whatever happened to him, and now he can't play. So to Chris Ballard, just thank you. You're awesome, man. Good job by you, and better at life than Skip Bayless.
Just taking that opportunity as we play the Colts to just spike the football right in front of them a little bit with that stupid Anthony Richardson pick. And especially after a week where we got to see another Devin Witherspoon game where he gets his pick and has a really nice game too.
Gosh, him and E-Man Warrior in that game, that'll be a memorable one for me. That's a game I won't forget for a long time, when those two came together and we got that Spoon E-Man game. And I think that'll be when we look back at, like, when Russ beat the Bears and we're like, ooh, that was the coming out party. I think with E-Man Warrior kind of getting, through his first season and, all the rookie jitters out and all that, like, this is the beginning of something special.
Well, my better at life this week, Adam, the Eagles and the LA Chargers. We're in a playoff style matchup on Monday Night Football this week. Mm-hmm. And we got to see Jalen Hurts, quarterback of the Eagles. You brought him up a little bit earlier. He goes out there and has a 5-turnover game. He does something that no other quarterback has done, which is throw an interception and fumble the football on the same exact play. And in doing that, I just want to share my appreciation, because now it has given all of the Sam Darnold fans the opportunity to point at Jalen Hurts and say, hey, at least Sam Darnold's never had a Jalen Hurts style game in the middle of the year against an opponent like the Los Angeles Chargers. So for Jalen Hurts going out and doing that, he's better at life than Skip Bayless.
That's fun. I heard somebody call Hurts' performance a full Peterman, and that brought joy to my heart. That was hilarious, referencing Nathan Peterman at his time with Buffalo. I'm pretty sure is when he had his terrible performance. But dang, that's rough. I do find it hysterical, however, to see, because Philly fans, right? In the press, hey, are you going to bench Jalen? Are you going to do this? For what? Tanner McKee?
For who? Yeah, right? You like your options better at Tanner McKee at quarterback? Who is he, McKee really their number 2?
I think so. I'm like 80% on that.
Because it was.
But, I mean, what are we talking about? Dude won you a Super Bowl last year. And played at it. Wasn't he the MVP last year as well for the Super Bowl?
I think he was.
I think he might have been. Yeah. He has one, like, horrific game. Like, horrific. I know he's been in a funk here the last few weeks and all of that, but you going to bench him? What are you talking about?
Hey, if you go to Tanner McKee, you're just one step closer to throwing out Sam Howell as your QB for the playoffs.
Who?
Oh, it's so good that Sam Howell is the 3rd-string quarterback for that Philly defense, or for the Philly offense.
Yeah, somehow freaking Roseman will trade Sam Howell for like a 3rd-round pick again somewhere. Like, it's just the stuff that he does.
It's what he does. It's annoying, but I don't have to worry about Sam Howell going out there and then suddenly looking good for the Eagles. Like, I know that that's definitely not going to happen.
No. Look, I've said for years Jalen Hurts is the best running back to ever play quarterback. But come on now. Like, Tanner McKee, Sam Howell, what are we doing?
Michael Knight saying, wow, how far the mighty have fallen. Chiefs versus Eagles Super Bowl, February 2025. The Eagles on the verge of potentially being challenged in the division by the Dallas Cowboys. The Chiefs, they fall this past week looking like they may not make the playoffs. And that's okay to me, because I'm ready for some new blood in the Super Bowl, including maybe our Seattle Seahawks.
That's right. I think as a nation, we've all had fatigue of Chiefs Eagles. I feel like the entire country has been taking a Chiefs victory lap this last week. And the thing is, they still have an 18% chance last time I checked. So Jason, Mike Myers isn't dead, or Jason Myers. Wait, who's the guy from Halloween?
Mike Myers. Yeah. Jason Myers is our field goal kicker.
Yeah, that's right.
Glad we got that nailed down. A big thanks to everyone who joined us live in chat. If you failed to hit the like button, you have an opportunity now. You've made it this far. Appreciate everybody joining us live. Appreciate Ryan911, who is our live executive producer. God Zero Hawk, who came in with a $10 super chat as well. Michael Knight came in with $7 worth of super chat. So a big thanks to you. And a big thanks to everybody who came in with some great questions, because one of the fun parts about doing this live is we get to react to some of these questions. So good. It's also good on everyone who brought that this week.
Good job by all of us. Yeah, we did great. And if you're a sicko like me and you're looking forward to watching some elder abuse this weekend, hit the like button. It's going to be fun, man. I can't wait to beat the pants off the Colts and send Phillip Rivers back to being a granddad.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.